views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
And hello and welcome to Open, the show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world right to you. I'm Daren Jaime, and today we're going to update you on what's happening in and around our borough. Coming up, we'll learn how one organization is teaming up with Bronx District Attorney Darcel Clark, addressing the rising crisis of opioids. Afterwards, Oliver Scholars is holding a gala supporting academic success of high-achieving students from underserved communities. And then we'll have Dr. Ameena Ali of the United Nations Gambia joining us to share more about what the UN does and how you can get involved. And after that, the Kingsbridge Heights Community Center is celebrating 45 years of empowering Bronx residents. Stay with us to learn about their work and their upcoming luncheon. Then the city's Parks Foundation celebrates 30 years, so stick around to learn about that, as well as their sports and educational programs. We've got a great show ahead. Stay tuned. All this and much more is heading your way. Right now, we're officially open. And hello, everyone. I'm Daren Jaime, and today is Wednesday, May the 1st. Yes, it is the first day of May. I know it doesn't feel like it, but it's the first day of May. You're watching Open, a live program bringing the Bronx and New York City straight to you. We also want to welcome our viewers on Manhattan Neighborhood Network, as Open is being broadcast simultaneously on MNN's channel. You can stay connected to us via Twitter at BronxNet and on Facebook at Open BronxNet Television. Well, a lot has certainly been going on through the past week. We'll take you through some of the highlights with our Bronx Updates. Kicking our show off today, the Andrew Friedman Home hosted a community forum. It was a discussion on the arts and social responsibility involving panelists, community members, and artists of the Bronx. Our BronxNet correspondent, Sanji Lopez, brings us the story.
Loving the Bronx was a discussion on the arts and social responsibility for artists, community members, and art institutions to hold an open forum within a safe space at the Andrew Friedman Home.
I hope Bronx organizations, Bronx businesses, Bronx people can start coming together to think about alternative solutions on how to make the Bronx stronger as a network for the people who are living in the Bronx. It's also talking about artists and social responsibility, artists and representation, and what ideas that we can bring to the table. I would like to talk about technology at some point too, in which we can be more cohesive and not be branded by outside forces, not be displaced because of property appreciation, not be displaced in art and the narrative of art, and having art that's still representational of our borough and our culture.
And I think of working together, I think of finding new ways that we can work together. And one of the ways that we can do that is by having open and expansive conversations about what we need, what exists in the Bronx, what is coming to the Bronx, what is in the Bronx, and how we can bring all of those things together to create the best solutions for the arts to continue to thrive in the Bronx.
I'm always interested in what makes us the same versus what makes us different, and how we can get to that point. And it's not easy. It's always very difficult to unite so many different people, but I don't think it's impossible. So I do feel like these conversations are important, where it's not about Elia and, like, say, Charles and Walter talking amongst themselves and you listening, but actually us listening to what people have to say.
While the conversations surrounding the arts go beyond the canceled It's the Bronx Festival, the Bronx-based grassroots collective Hydropunk organized and presented testimonies from artists involved in It's the Bronx, conducted surveys to gather community and artist input on how arts and cultural institutions can better sustain artists, and through this information, Hydropunk formulated a list of demands, which they handed off to panelists.
We're here today to bring awareness on art washing and the hyper-reality of gentrification and how it's affecting our working class communities. Many of the artists that we're serving here today are being affected by it. We made a survey. We got about 70 testaments from local artists on what they would like to see, how arts and cultural institutions here in the Bronx could work together to provide alternates for us, how to promote sustainability, and how to promote borough unity and empowerment.
I feel like working with Hydropunk, working with other folks in community that are trying to bring things together cohesively and in a way that benefits everyone, not just folks that were part of It's the Bronx or folks that are vendors and activists, but bringing everything together to remember we're all one people, we all deal with a lot of the same base issues, and when we acknowledge each other and love on each other, everything can be a lot easier.
Some speakers also delved into many different topics such as gentrification, displacement, and other issues that they feel affect the community as a whole.
Revitalization is something that we've been starving for, and then the older folks in the community are like, well, we want this, we do want this. But that is something that is being laid out for private development. It's for private development. It's because a developer wants to build somewhere where people want to live.
They rent and they thrive in, but don't live in Mott Haven. Ironically, they dress and feed those that are orchestrating the demise of my neighbors. Developers, artists, and entrepreneurs have created a hostile environment and are complacent in our rebranding. They curate events and experiences that are exclusive, private, yet free. The same things that are making our neighborhoods suddenly so attractive seem within our reach. But we are not welcomed in this collective experience.
Our goal is to create an equitable platform for artists and creatives and vendors that don't come at the cost of their communities. Because the reality is, a lot of these spaces don't have these safeguards available, and that they take money from certain places. And it shouldn't have to be that way. You shouldn't have to lose your community and your home to have anything.
The Andrew Friedman Home hopes to continue hosting these pertinent community conversations within its space.
We need to have these conversations publicly about what's going on in our community and bridge that gap between the youth that is very loud and kind of boisterous. Sometimes we, as somebody who's a little bit older in the community, who might know the network or might have the funding or the resources, really reach out and help these young people and come to these events and not be afraid of what they're saying.
We're going to do this quarterly, and more organized. So I hope that you continue to be a part of this.
You can watch the full Loving the Bronx Forum on BronxNet channels Optimum 67 and Files 33 and BronxNet.org. Reporting for BronxNet, Sanji Lopez.
And thank you, Sanji. And that's all we have for our Bronx updates. The Bronx faces a very serious and growing opioid crisis. Bronx District Attorney Darcel Clark is holding a community summit in partnership with the Acacia Network and the Third Avenue Bid. The gathering will address the complex health, economic, and social issues associated with the opioid crisis as they seek to find solutions in a compassionate, collaborative, and inclusive way. Joining us now to talk a little bit more about the work of the Third Avenue Bid and the upcoming summit is Michael Brady. He's the Executive Director of the Third Avenue Business Improvement District. And Mike, good to have you.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Good. Let's tackle the hard stuff first, talking about this opioid crisis that continues to plague the borough of the Bronx. First of all, let's talk numbers, right?
Yeah.
Real staggering numbers when it comes to the borough of the Bronx.
Absolutely. You know, if the South Bronx, not even the entire Bronx, but if the South Bronx were its own state, we would rank #2 in the United States for fatalities as a result of overdose.
If just the South Bronx alone?
Just the South Bronx. Once you equate all of the fatalities in the Bronx, we're #1, and we rank up there with West Virginia. So the opioid crisis in the Bronx is very real, and it requires, you know, a multi-sector approach to really addressing it. You know, we haven't seen a crisis like this since the 70s and 80s with the HIV and AIDS epidemic. And, you know, it's unfortunate to say, but largely because the issues have crept into white communities and communities of upper incomes is one of the reasons why a lot of resources are being funneled this way. Whereas the challenges facing the South Bronx have been around for generations. Opioids are not new to our communities, south of 161st Street. But now we're getting a lot of resources together, and we're really looking forward to partnering with the DA's office on Monday to bring community groups together to really collaboratively address this.
So, and I'm not to cut you off, but what do you tell me about the crisis itself? From a business perspective, how do we see this really walking through the doors of our businesses?
Sure, one of the reasons people look at us and say, well, why is a business improvement district involved in this? And it has direct consequence on the economic development of our areas. So if we take the hub, for example, a lot of folks have equated the hub to Zombieland. There was a New York Post article about 4 months ago that stated just that. And people don't want to shop, in places where there are overdoses. People don't want to shop in places where there are panhandlers or everything that's associated with drug use. And I hate to just fixate on opioids because it's usually a combination of several factors. Opioids, alcohol, K2, heroin. It's a combo mix that really has this detrimental effect. But the prevalence in the hub, specifically at 149th Street, has really made the business community stand up. And we have about 1,200 businesses in our portfolio, and everyone is being impacted by it.
And so when you have this crisis, of course, we know about naloxone kits.
Absolutely.
Are your businesses being armed with those, given the fact that somebody can walk through the door at any time?
Sure, absolutely. So the Third Avenue bid, in partnership with Acacia Network, St. Anne's Corner of Harm Reduction, and Department of Health and NYPD, has led a series of naloxone trainings for small businesses, also community organizations, to really make sure that we make sure that everyone can, at the very least, save a life. Councilmember Rafael Salamanca, who represents our district, has really been leading the charge on this, not only in leading trainings, in fact, his entire staff is trained, but also in terms of making sure naloxone is available in every New York City DOE institution to make sure that a teacher, a student, whomever can make sure that they can save a life.
That's awesome. Talk to me a little bit more about the business district, because obviously, you're at the hub, a lot of traffic, a lot of business going through there. Summer's coming right around the corner. I know it doesn't feel like it today, but what you got coming around the corner?
Absolutely. We are gearing up for tons of summer programs. In addition to managing 149th Street and 3rd Avenue, we also oversee the Southern Boulevard Business Improvement District and the Bruckner Boulevard Commercial Corridor. So we have tons of events coming up. The largest one that's in the immediate future is in June. We're hosting One Bronx World Pride to celebrate the LGBTQ community. This is the 4th year that the event has been held in the hub. We're expecting about 25,000 folks to attend. It's part of the World Pride celebration, so we're really gearing up for that in a big way. Lots of different community festivals focused, from weekend walks where we have public artists to a dunk tank where we're hoping we'll be able to dunk some of our elected officials in June, straight through to back to school programming and the installation of public art on the completed Roberto Clemente Plaza.
So a lot going on throughout the course of the summer for you.
Absolutely.
When you look at the transformation through the last 3 years, what have you seen?
It's uncanny to see the hub has really progressed. It's difficult to say that, but when you look at where things were 10 years ago, we have a lot of new stores that are opening up. We have a lot of public works projects that are completed or near completion, and we just have a lot of new development happening. The completion of La Central and over the next 2 years will bring online about 1,000 new units of housing, and then adjacent development sites are really going to bring on about 3,000 units of housing, sorely needed housing for Bronx residents, and we're hopeful that combined with the dramatic public investment that we've seen over the past 3 years will really create a new hub and a new corridor, a new gateway for the South Bronx.
What do you find to be your biggest challenge today?
I think the opioid crisis is definitely the largest. It's something that impacts our community in a very large way. I think secondarily is trying to balance out the fear of gentrification and the reality that some development is healthy, and we have to navigate that conversation and really make sure that Bronxites who live and work in the Bronx can stay, but also take a look at underutilized areas or increased residential density in certain areas to make sure that we are making room for New Yorkers to have homes. And the Third Avenue bid is really pushing for home ownership as well as condoed store ownership in our commercial districts to make sure that people can actually buy and stay. We all know that home ownership is something that equates to stability and empowerment, and we're really big proponents of that.
You spoke to home ownership and homeowners. Talk to me about businesses. How do they feel? Rents are rising, of course.
Absolutely.
And there is a great fear on their part of being able to lose their business, and also that fear of gentrification.
Sure. There are a lot of pieces of legislation currently in the New York City Council that that range from a vacancy tax to a vacancy fine to a vacancy registry as a way to, handle rising rents. But, I always like to say we can't just handle rising rents without handling rising taxes. 9 out of every 10 commercial tenants have a tax passed through in their lease, which means when the city raises the rent on the property owner, they're also raising it on that small business. So until the city fixes its broken commercial tax structure, whereby, it's an overburdened structure of about 35% on commercial properties, we're not going to see any real transformation on small business rents. So we're trying to figure out an appropriate package to put in with the city council that addresses vacancy, that addresses illegal vending, which has an impact on brick and mortar businesses, but also, really takes a hard look at an antiquated structure in our city's tax system that hasn't been addressed in about 60 years.
Good working relationship between your elected officials?
Sure. I love our Bronx elected officials. I think City Hall and I can probably have a better relationship. I don't know if the mayor likes what we're doing in the South Bronx very much, but sometimes we have to be loud to get the resources that our community needs. And after, 60 plus years of disinvestment, we need to be loud and we need to demand equity from our elected officials.
Michael Brady, Executive Director.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you
it.
for the 3rd Avenue Business District. And we want to let you know, he's the Executive Director of 3rd Avenue Business Improvement District. And as we say, the Bronx DA's Opioid Community Summit taking place on Monday, May the 6th, 9:30 a.m., Metropolitan College of New York. The Bronx campus, located on 463 East 149th Street. Once again, 463 East 149th Street. Come on out and have your voice heard. Taking a quick break. Stay tuned. We've got more Open coming up right after this.
For all the papas out there, let's stop what we're doing and take a moment. A moment to be with our kids. They can be loud moments, goofy moments, sporty moments, dorky moments, kooky moments. Moments where we talk or walk or just hang out. It doesn't really matter. They all count because every time dads take a moment to be with their kids, well, it's pretty momentous. So let's all take a moment to make a moment today.
I'll never forget the day our landlord called and said, read your lease. No pets allowed. My owner tells him my dog ate the lease, but that didn't work. And now I'm stuck in a shelter. But this pit bull is ready for a new crib. I'm loving, loyal, and play well with others. So don't be intimidated by all my muscles, because the biggest one I have is my heart. That's right, I said it.
And thank you for staying with us. City Parks Foundation has been dedicated to invigorating and transforming parks into dynamic, vibrant centers of urban life through sports, arts, and community building and education programs for all New Yorkers. And guess what? They're celebrating 30 years. And here now to tell us more is the Associate Director of Sports, Jonathan Gamberg, and Director of Education, Chrissy Word from the City Parks Foundation. And good to have you all.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Good to have you. So you're talking about, first of all, City Parks Foundation 30-year anniversary.
Yeah, it's a big one for us.
Totally. We've been around for a while now, engaging communities and people in their parks around New York City.
Give me a little bit about the education programming.
Thank you. Yeah, we run programming throughout the year, school year as well as summertime, for elementary through high school youth and even some college youth that we bring on as paid interns. And these are progressive outdoor education programs focused primarily in science and STEM, and we are getting kids out into authentic outdoor spaces where they can actually experience their parks and learn to own their parks.
Yeah. And I know now, even though the weather's rough, kids are really gearing up and getting ready to, take that great trip outdoors. And there's a lot to do outdoors. And not just that, you got sports as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, much like Chrissy and the education department, our sports department has a lot going on this spring and coming up this summer. We offer free tennis, golf, track and field, and fitness instruction to not only youth, but also seniors as well. We've got a vibrant senior program that's happening this spring, giving yoga and fitness, walking, and tennis instruction to seniors all over the city.
So as we talk about the work that's going on, 30 years, I always ask the question, I know you guys haven't been there 30 years, but how have you seen things progress through the last few years?
Well, from a sports perspective, I mean, we've seen some growth in some of our programs. We started off just doing tennis in the parks, and now, we've got golf programs, track and field programs, so a lot of different ways for kids and youth around the city to get involved in different types of sports. And because it's totally free, there's very, very low impact in terms of entry. Kids can give a sport a try and see if it's something they like and want to continue with in the future.
Yeah, I'd say a similar trajectory for the education programs. We started with one program focusing on forest ecology and parks in 1995. Since then, we've added our Learning Gardens program, our Green Girls program. Seeds to Trees is what that first program morphed into, and then our Coastal Classroom program. So we're really working in all aspects of parks, forests, open areas, shorelines, and the programs are for, like I said, children of all ages, and we're serving more youth now, I think is the big point. Now we're serving upwards of 5,000 youth a year in our programs. Yeah, it's wonderful. And access is the most important for us, right? So all of our programs are free to our students.
Are there any sports that people are gravitating more towards these days?
Well, tennis is our largest program. We reach over 6,000 kids with that around the city. But in recent years, we've really seen an uptick in our golf program. Going back 15, 20 years when Tiger Woods first started, our phones started ringing, and that's kind of how our golf program got started. And we've seen that trajectory kind of continue. Now we reach over 3,000 kids with free golf lessons in the parks. We have a state-of-the-art junior golf center in Brooklyn, New York that's open to everyone. So I think golf is really one that's on the rise, and obviously with Tiger Woods back in the news these days. For
winning the Masters.
You
better have people by the phones.
That's it. Our phones are ringing again, and we're gearing up for a busy summer, I think, with our golf program.
Yeah, and I think the one thing is that the people from the city have an opportunity to take part in these great parks, right? You talk about sports and going out and having the opportunity to have athletics at their disposal. It's one of the great benefits, I guess, of just living in the city. I mean, the city takes a lot of hits, but when it comes to parks and recreation, certainly it's got to be one of the great pluses that we have.
For sure, and the Bronx is actually, we're ahead. Our parks are huge, beautiful parks. We have some of the largest parks in the city, and the parks offer, from my perspective, in terms of ecology, everything. Like I said, we've got forests, we've got streams, we've got open fields, we've got shorelines, and each one of those offers an opportunity for Bronxites and New Yorkers in general to learn about the natural world really authentically. All kinds of wildlife to be seen and weather to be experienced. We don't shy away from chilly weather in the springtime. We get our kids outside.
I know you do. And tell me, but being that we're going more green, right? We're trying to be better, as a society and more conscious. Are we seeing? I asked Jonathan about the rise in numbers. What about for you? Where are you seeing the rise in numbers amongst your group?
Well, really in all of our programs, I would say that youth are starting to get really engaged and pretty wise, especially about climate change. So we do see more interest in the programs. Teachers as well, I should say. I forgot to mention one of our programs is our teacher training program, experiential learning in parks. And so, everybody that's involved is starting to really think about the natural world and what are our impacts on that. And, a lot of people think I got to get out of New York City to actually experience the natural world, and that's not the case at all. So youth and teachers, adults alike, are starting to get wise about what the opportunities are here in New York City parks.
Before we wrap, talk about where people can get more information about your sports programs.
Sure. Registration is open for spring programs and summer programs at cityparksfoundation.org, both youth and senior programs here in the Bronx. I mean, we've got from Soundview to Pelham Bay to McCombs Dam. We're all over the Bronx, and we've got a lot of we've got space for more people to come out and enjoy these programs.
Absolutely, cityparksfoundation.org/learn. This summer, we're really offering our Learning Gardens program for groups in particular. So for those out-of-school time organizations that are offering programs, camp programs, I hope they'll look up and see what we've got to offer this summer.
Yeah, a lot going on. So thank you guys for coming and sharing with us. And, you know, hopefully people take advantage of the parks, the great outdoors. And as you said, you don't have to wait for it to get real warm. Of course, in a climate such as this, you can still do a lot.
Something every season.
That's
Totally.
it. Good to have you guys.
Thank you.
Very much.
All right, now listen, once again, a recap. If you want to find out more about the educational and sports programs, as well as the upcoming events, including Summer Stage, we encourage you to visit cityparksfoundation.org. Once again, cityparksfoundation.org. Taking a quick break. We want you to stay tuned because we certainly do have some more open. Don't go away. We're coming right back right after this.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made this vacation happen.
Double points with every purchase?
Cleverly merging promotions.
I love it.
Cross-referencing travel sites. And booking all your flights with those...
Vouchers. I got us bumped.
They were like, oh. But now they're like... Aloha. You aced this vacation. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
Patriotism. It inspires passionate debate. It's worn like a badge of honor with good reason, because it means love and devotion for one's country. But what really makes up this country of ours? It's the people. To love America is to love all Americans. This year, patriotism shouldn't just be about pride of country. It should be about love. Love beyond age, sexuality, disability, race, religion, and other labels. Because love has no labels.
And we certainly thank you for staying with us. Oliver Scholars helps Black and Latinx students reach their potential as next-generation thought leaders as well as trailblazers by removing economic and social barriers. Here now sharing more about Oliver Scholars and their upcoming gala is Mark Hall, who's the Director of Admissions and Placement, and Assistant Director Alex Fernandez. And welcome both to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Good. So we hear the word Oliver Scholars, right? And somebody says, well, who are they? How do you define you guys?
Well, Oliver Scholars is a program that throughout the city we try to find high-achieving, hard-working 7th grade students. And we, over the course of 14 months, put them through a program that prepares them and also places them in some of the top independent schools in the city and across the Northeast, and sometimes in California as well. We have some new exciting partnerships with some boarding schools in California in the last 2 years.
And so as you're going out there surveying the land for these students, obviously you find them, and then what happens?
So it all starts with our nominations, and so, you know, anyone can nominate. It can be a family, it can be a school. It all takes place online, and the nomination just identifies the student, what school they go to, and then from there we invite them to an open house, so they learn more about the program before they fully apply. Once they apply, we'll test the students, and from there we'll interview them. That's the final part of our phase, and we actually just wrapped up our interview weekend this past weekend.
And so for students, you because you're a former alum as well, huh?
Yeah.
So what was it like for you going through the process?
It was scary. I had no idea what Oliver was about. I had no idea what private schools were. I had gone to public school for elementary and middle school. But my father really pushed it on me, and so for me, I was learning a lot about sort of myself, my academic strength, because in middle school it was easy, and I got to Oliver and it was really hard. But it truly over-prepared me, I'd say, for high school and college.
That's great. And so you have a great gala coming up.
We
Yep,
do, tonight,
definitely.
actually. I have to go home and change.
That's it. You're looking good right now, man.
Yeah, I think we're expecting over 350 guests, and it's one of our major fundraisers. I think we're going to honor a number of scholars as well tonight that will join us, and we're really excited about the evening.
When you talk about preparing yourself, obviously you got prepared for something that you weren't even ready for, didn't even
Right.
know what you're ready for.
Right.
On the other side now, you're on the other side of it. What do you say to prospective students coming in about why this is such a great program to be involved in?
So one of my main pitches, I guess, would be that I went to boarding school as a scholar, and what I talk a lot about is the Oliver family, right? It's not just about preparing the students to get to their schools, but it's supporting them while they're there. It's continuing to support them while they're in college, and really helping students feel that they have someone in their corner 24/7 once they're in the program.
So once again, somebody's watching right now saying, listen, this sounds really great. How do I get my young person involved?
OliverScholars.org. Anyone can nominate. It doesn't have to be through a school. That's where we usually find scholars, but aunt and uncle, even a student can nominate themselves, and we'll get in touch and start the process that way.
Yeah. So educationally, right, you're preparing them for a level of education and even exposure to things they've never actually been exposed to. And you talked about the wide reach, right? Now you're out in California and things of that nature. Give us a little bit more about the network.
We have several partner schools. They could be, like Alex said, boarding schools like Andover and Exeter, that are large schools, or small schools like St. Andrews in Delaware, but also schools in the city like Trinity and Brearley and Spence. So what we try to do is develop, over the last 35 years, develop relationships with those schools in which they trust the preparation that we're going to put kids through and the support that we're going to provide for them so they can be successful in their 4 years at these schools.
And so for Alex, looking back, and you look back at your experience now, what does it mean as far as, your experiences to where you are today?
Sure. For me, it's been a privilege to be on the admissions side and be able to look for students that, somewhat resemble me. And what I say all the time is that these 7th graders nowadays are definitely much smarter than I was back then. So for me, it's been really fulfilling to go through the full cycle where I meet them in September and October, and then see them accepted in the program in May, and see them enroll in our summer program, and just get to see that growth and that development. As an alum, as a staff member, that's been a true honor.
And what advice do you give them?
Hang in there. Our summer programs and our preparation is meant to be rigorous, and so we try our best to encourage them to hang in there. The first few weeks will be hard. They'll go from getting A's and B's to a couple C's and D's, but at the end, it's meant to do that. It's meant to over-prepare them for their experiences.
And as I was asking, Mark was over here shaking his head like real tough. Yeah, that's exactly what goes on.
Yeah. Well, I think the point that we really want our scholars to learn through our summer program and our Saturday classes is that it's not enough to be smart. You got to work hard. Yeah. And they're going to go to schools where everyone in their classroom is smart. And to set themselves apart, they have to be willing to work just as hard as anybody else to be successful.
So tonight's the gala. Excited?
Definitely.
Excited.
Definitely.
Yeah. So you got alums coming back?
Yep.
We're going to honor some alums at the gala tonight. There'll be some of our older alums in the crowd who are now, sponsoring tables and things as such. So that's exciting. And just looking forward to raising more money so we can reach more scholars.
The big key is, I think, exposure, right? And there's a level of exposure. For you, what was that exposure? What did that exposure mean to you, given the fact that, listen, you could go in some places where other people have never been.
Yeah.
And only a select few.
Yeah, definitely. For me, it was eye-opening, right? I'm an only child from a Dominican family. No one had gone to private school in my family. And what I talk to families a lot about the transition is going from, being born and raised in Harlem, and falling asleep listening to sirens and some Spanish music outside, right, to transitioning to Concord, Massachusetts, where I go to sleep listening to crickets as I sleep. And so just the exposure to these different communities and these different cultures really helped to shape who I am today. And the boarding school piece definitely helped to sort of make me a little more independent, a little more mature, and really guide me through what is life, you know, what life is right now.
Yeah. Well, guys, I want to thank you guys for coming, and congratulations. I know it's going to be a great night.
Thank you.
Really excited about tonight, and keep up the great work.
Well, thank you.
Thanks for having us.
All right, Mark, Alex, thanks much again. All right, now listen, the Oliver Scholars Gala is taking place tonight, Wednesday, May the 1st, 6:30 at Mandarin Oriental, 80 Columbus Circle. Now, if you want to find out more information, all you got to do is visit oliverscholars.org. And we encourage you, don't go anywhere because we got more open coming up right after this.
Well, Thomas, you've got prediabetes. But with more exercise and a change in diet, it can be reversed.
I've tried exercising. It just makes me hungry for bacon.
I love bacon, too. And who really likes to exercise?
Not me.
Me neither.
Nobody. So we're good?
What? Oh, you still have prediabetes. Big time.
We're back here on Open. The Kingsbridge Heights Community Center is celebrating 45 years of empowering Bronx residents by providing a safe environment, fostering academic milestones, literacy, mental health support, nutrition, technology, the arts, and more. You're here sharing a little bit more about the upcoming KHCC luncheon and more. Margaret Della, Executive Director of the Kingsbridge Heights Community Center. Margaret, good to have you.
Good morning.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Everybody's celebrating anniversaries.
I
today,
know.
like, right? You know, so you're a part, 45 years too, huh?
Yeah, exactly. And we're having a luncheon on May 7th. It's going to be at the Water Club. It's 12 to 2. And we're honoring some really exciting and powerful Bronxites. We're honoring Bronx's daughter, Tarana Burke, who began the Me Too movement and sparked such an incredible conversation in the United States, but especially for survivors. And so she's done an incredible job, and we're recognizing her. KHCC also provides programs for survivors, child sexual abuse, domestic violence, and campus assault. So what she's doing on a national level is really critical to us at a community level. We're also recognizing the Bronx Borough President, Ruben Diaz Jr. He's been an incredible advocate for KHCC. He's helped us out with some capital projects, has come and opened early childhood centers for us, and of course he's been an incredible force in the Bronx overall between education, housing, healthy initiatives. We have our own gem in the Bronx. We have a garden and a park. It actually used to be a parking lot, so it's been a little controversial for some staff members, but we're really focused on healthy eating, having access to the seed to plate process for our kids, understanding where fruits and vegetables come, their own ability to grow fruits and vegetables and to be able to enjoy them, pluck them right from the stems as the weather improves. And then we're also honoring Deloitte. We want to recognize corporations that are involved in investing in communities like ours. They've been coming in for impact days for nearly a decade, and they're really focused on diversity, inclusion, equity within their own organization, and we want to create space not only for them to invest within KHCC, but then to have KHCC alum go on and to be eligible for positions in corporations like that.
And so you got this great luncheon that's taking place. You know, you talk about the great services that's going on. I've asked the question throughout the course of the day. You know, services change as you know, needs change. What do you find to be the services that most people are trying to be prevalent in today?
Well, there's a couple of different areas. So for us, we're all about providing resources, acquiring resources to help our community advance. And so first of all, we want to be sure that children who might be at the poverty level, most of our children are ready for kindergarten, because we know if they're not ready for kindergarten, they may fall behind their more affluent peers and they might not catch up. And so that's really critical for us. Unfortunately, trauma and abuse therapy is something that is prevalent throughout this area of the Bronx and throughout the entire borough. And we want to be sure that families, individuals, children, wherever people are in their lives, they can be derailed. When living through abuse or trauma, it's difficult to focus on school. It's difficult to focus on going to work or taking care of your family. So we want to be sure that survivors come in, they get the help and the treatment that they need, and they're able to go on and become community members. And then we have teenagers. We want to be sure that our youth are invested in, that they have not only access to opportunities, but that they're ready for those opportunities. We know in the Kingsbridge area of the Bronx that we're one of the 5th slowest growing job creation areas in the entire city. So it's great that KHCC is here to prepare people, but if the jobs aren't here, if our community doesn't have access to jobs, it's stunting our mission. And so we really want to be focused on those critical issues, not only preparing, but having access to opportunities to help our community advance.
So once again, tell people you got the luncheon at 45th anniversary. Tell them about the luncheon, what they can do.
The luncheon, just come to our website, khcc-nyc.org. You can buy tickets there. You can come meet Tarana Burke. You can come see the borough president and the head of tax at Deloitte and come meet these incredible honorees, meet your community members, be a part of this incredible opportunity to not only recognize what KHCC has done over the last 45 years, but be a part of our future.
I want to talk about the fact that, you know, you guys used to be the 50th precinct building.
Yes.
And all of a sudden now, you know, it's transformed into this beautiful place.
Yes, it is. It's a landmark building. It is 1902. So it's an incredible place to be. We have deconstructed sort of the police precinct vibe of it. We actually had some board members, actually Justine Coons, who's married to Jeff Coons, she came in and painted a mural in the front entryway, which is a butterfly, and it just changed the entire dynamic of the building, sort of the grays and the dark hues. They've all been painted over. We've got flowers. We've got everything taken care of. But we love that building. It's actually a Parks Department building that we're housed in, but it is a bookmark or a bookend to our campus.
Yeah, when you talk about repurposing a building, I mean, obviously, to do it that kind of way.
Yes, and it's an investment. A landmarked building from 1902, there's a significant amount of investment that we have to do as an organization. So it's our home. We're a partner with the Parks Department, but there's a lot of work to be done to maintain that space. It's our home away from home. And so everything from volunteers who come in through Deloitte to teachers, to staff members, we want to create that environment that when you walk in, kids feel like this is my place. This is where I can relax. This is where I can have fun. This is where I can burn off some steam in our gym. So we really want to have that warm, fuzzy feel when we walk in, and it takes an entire community to make sure that happens.
Spring is here. It hasn't officially kicked in today, but talk to us about what events you got going on in the spring in terms of activities.
Yes, we have our neighborhood festival that is on May 18th. It's from 11 to 4. So everything from bounce houses to the grill. I will be on the grill. Come and meet me.
Oh, get out. Okay.
Yeah, so grilling burgers. We have vendors, local businesses, and we also have volunteers, people who want to come into the garden, weed, plant, work with kids, read, find a nook, Anything you want. Music will be hosted by Uptown Vinyl Supreme, if you don't know them in the Bronx. I'm sure you do. So they've been an incredible partner to us and worked with us on Hip Hop Summer and taught kids about graffiti and hip hop and being an MC. So they're a strong partner to us in the Bronx as well. But it's going to be great.
Good. Looking forward to all the great activities that you got coming on. But as we said, the 45th anniversary is taking place. And Margaret, for people who want to get more information, they want to tap into you guys, what do they do?
They just come to our website, khcc-nyc.org. Can find all access to information, tickets, and our contact information for additional questions.
I know it's a busy season for you,
yes.
so keep up the great work.
Yes, thank you so much.
Margaret Della here from the Kingsbridge Heights Community Center. Now listen, the KHCC's Empowerment 45 People Opportunity Progress Luncheon is once again taking place on May the 7th from 12 to 2. You're going to the Water Club, 500 East 30th Street. Now, for more information and for tickets, of course, visit KHCC.nyc.org. Once again, KHCC-nyc.org. Try reading that 3 times in a prompt. All right, taking a quick break. We'll be back with more Open coming up right after this.
Open up your books to page 360.
Did you just look at your phone while you was in class? You played yourself.
About inspirational quotes.
You gotta believe in yourself. Don't ever play yourself. The key is to make it, so make it.
Louise, can you give me an example of an inspirational quote?
Don't play yourself. The key is to make it.
And who said that?
I did. Now that's a major key alert.
Learn the real major keys to getting to college at getschool.com.
Shuraa has no choice. She and millions like her walk miles a day for dirty water. But together, we can end their walk by providing clean water close by. Instead of spending hours walking to get water that makes them sick, girls can be in a classroom and moms will gain back time to care for their families. Sons and daughters can grow up strong, finally free of sicknesses. It's true. When you just add water, you change a life. Learn more at worldvision.org.
For all the papas out there, let's stop what we're doing and take a moment. A moment to be with our kids. They can be loud moments, goofy moments, sporty moments, dorky moments, kooky moments. Moments where we talk or walk or just hang out. It doesn't really matter. They all count because every time dads take a moment to be with their kids, well, it's pretty momentous. So let's all take a moment to make a moment today.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
You think getting dumped by text is harsh? Try getting dumped by a tennis ball. My ex-owner drove me out to the woods, yelled fetch, and by the time I bought the ball back, he was gone. Yeah, I was pissed. But the folks at the shelter helped me let go of my anger. I learned coping skills, like taking it to the hole. Boom! Now I'm ready to fetch again. But how about I throw and you run and get it?
You're back here on Open. The United Nations Rural Maternal Care Initiatives is presenting a free evening of information as well as some fun learning on what the UN does and how to get involved right here in the borough of the Bronx. Ed, joining us now to share a little bit more about the upcoming Bronx events is the founder of GRACE and the U.S. Gambia representative for Rural Women Health Access, Dr. Ameena Ali. And thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Great. So give me a little bit about, first of all, let's talk about your maternal care plan. And it's,
Okay.
it's this thing between Gambia, United Nations.
Yes. There is a high morbidity and mortality rate that is among African American as well as Latino women, especially here in the Gambia, in the Bronx. And the Gambia, the United Nations Gambia, is making a change in that. And what we're seeing is that there are women that are in crisis while pregnant and maternally in need, especially during crisis of HIV/AIDS. We have the suffrage of human and sexually trafficked. We have substance abuse and recovery. And we also have those that are trying to formulate a care plan maternally for those that are homeless or undocumented or the indigenous peoples that are unrecognized.
I want to tell people that you're a naturopathic doctor and you specialize in obstetrics and gynecology. And you've been home birthing.
Oh, wow.
And educating women?
Yes.
For a long time?
A long time. It'll be 30 years in February of 2020.
Wow.
Yes.
And
Another
so-
anniversary.
Another anniversary, right? All right. And you got some things coming up too, because we were talking before the show, actually, 16 grandchildren?
Yes. Can you imagine? It's probably job security more than anything else. But it is a blessing. I've always wanted a big tribe. And when we have 6 girls, and all of them are blessing us exponentially. We have one due in August and one due in December, and we're just going to keep the ball rolling.
So you got a lot going on.
Yes.
I want to talk a little bit more about some certification classes. You got some doula certification classes. For people who don't know what doula is, explain, and then the certification class.
Sure. A doula is a servant, and servant in the term of support, not necessarily as in doing things, but we support the idea and the care package that comes with having a birth plan that a mother ordains. Of course, we support her decisions and we give her options and choices, and we support her responsibilities as a mom and as well as a birther. And in this, we incorporate the tribe, the community, and the clan in what it is that it is offered for the mother. And what she is doing is she is saying that she needs help, and the doula comes in and supports her decision in the way in which she wants to birth.
Wow. And so when you talk about help, how does that help play out?
Well, knowing that there is a significant, and we're talking like 50, 60% decrease of cesarean sections and required cesarean sections when there is adequate health care as well as support during your maternal times. What we're learning also is that the women that are most supported are empowered to birth her way, and that allows greater outcomes for birth supports and gets her closer to her game plan or her birth plan, as we like to say, her empowerment plan, to have her baby her way. And that allows her tribe to be inclusive, to include religion and the cultural adaptations and her traditions that she embodies.
Talk to me a little bit about your UN work, because you're the UN representative as well, right?
Yes.
Okay.
There is not a culture, tribe, or tradition in the Bronx that is not represented in the UN. However, there is a great disparity between the UN and the Bronx. And of course, because the Bronx is underserved, what better place than to come and represent their own in the UN? So what we're doing is we're bringing the UN to the Bronx, and we're having informational sessions that allows those that are in the Bronx to understand how they're represented, when they're represented, and to what deficits that we may have in the UN to serve them. And then we're bringing interactive and fun activities. We have a session panel that allows each of the tribes and traditions to formulate a business and see if we can work collaboratively here in the Bronx.
So for people who want more information about that upcoming session, of course, we're going to tell them about that as well. It's taking place on a Wednesday.
Yes, and it's at Legal Hand here at Highbridge on Jerome Avenue. And we are going to have 90-minute sessions, so it's not long. We're going to have food and fun and great activities for each of the attendees. And we're also going to have a way to register so that you can be an official member of the UN.
So when you're talking about working at the UN as a representative, and you take the cares and concerns, of course, of community back to the UN, how does that play out, and how does that, talk about that dynamic?
Well, in order for someone to be fed, you have to know that they're hungry. And one of the things that the UN does very well is it supplies the insufficiencies culturally. Because they're a representative at the UN will come in and now see that there are domestic agendas that have to be tackled. We just had a nice week with indigenous peoples, and it's representative of well over 500 tribes and traditions and cultures that sometimes are missed. And the only way that they're missed is because we don't know that they exist, or we have had them fall to the side of the road. So this is where the UN comes in and says, well, now that you're here, you deserve the success.
You got an event coming up in May displaced neighbors.
Yes. Now that is for refugee, asylum seeking, and those that are displaced through human and sexually trafficked. We're giving roles, rights, responsibilities, legal aid. Legal hand is bringing on what it is that they need to transition peacefully and come out of the hiding that they do here in the United States, and then help them to understand that they do have a place and they have a power and their voice is heard.
A lot going on there in terms of trafficking as well. So
Yes.
when we talk about trafficking, you seeing a lot in the community?
Yes, and unfortunately, I kind of get the women once they are pregnant due to the sexually trafficked, the human trafficked, and I get the dynamic of them trying to decipher whether they're going to keep the baby. So they have cultural and moral injury, and the moral attrition that happens with that, of knowing that this has happened to me and now I have to raise a stark reminder of that. So they have these battles that they have to deal with mentally and psychologically, and the mental health capabilities that are necessary and needed, and the support therein.
So we've got events happening in May. We've got things that you can take part in around. How do you
Yes.
tell Bronxites who are watching now, listen, you know what, this sounds like some stuff I really want to get connected to.
Yes.
How do they plug in?
Well, they can plug into Legal Hand right here in the Bronx. They can go to Legal Hand Highbridge, and they can go in that office anytime that it is open and get any information on anything we're doing with the UN. You can also go to our website, which is belliesofgrace.weebly.com. And Bellies of Grace is our go-to site that has all of our programs and projects, as well as what we're doing at the UN and here locally.
So talk to me about this birthing and being this midwife. I mean,
amazing.
It gives you a great sense of satisfaction.
It does. We are now toppling the Bronx now and trying to reduce. And we also have, unfortunately, Sunday, we lost a young lady in the Gambia to birthing, which was unavoidable. And unfortunately, she had to transition. But once she transitioned, that taught us something, that we still have work to do. So we are going to stay in this mission. We're not going to sit back and lean on our laurels. We're going to keep fighting, and we're going to stay in the fight because women deserve it. And the only way that this population is going to grow is if we have healthy women birthing healthy babies. So we have to empower the women, their voice, their power behind birthing, and the babies that they birth.
It's a little bit of a challenge with babies getting a little bit, or I should say mothers becoming a whole lot younger.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. We used to have teen births. If you remember, your grandmother was kind of young when she got married, but you know, there was a different ethic as far as taking care of yourself. There were things that we did that were deliberate and intentional to keep ourselves healthy and to have the babies come out equally as healthy. And then we had more children. And we did what our body does naturally. We were of a generation that had 14, 15, 16 children, and it was normal. We had them in the house because as African Americans, we weren't allowed to go to hospitals. And equally so, we didn't have the disparity of having other cultures impede in our decisions. We kind of did what we were supposed to do because that's all we had, and we were all we had to support each other.
Dr. Ameena Ali, a lot of information here.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
And of course, we're going to get people plugged in now. So I want to tell people a little bit more about your organization, what you got going on now. So the United Nations Information Session actually taking place on Wednesday, May the 8th, and that's from 6:30 to 8 p.m. And again, Tuesday, May 21st, from 4:30 to 6 p.m. at Legal Hand on Highbridge on 1759 Jerome Avenue. And for more information, of course, you can always visit belliesofgrace.weebly.com. And there you can find out more about Dr. Ali and the great work that she's doing. I can't believe 16 grandchildren. Wow, that's a lot.
We have some more because they're still healthy and young.
All right. Well, we've come to the end of our show today and want to thank all of our guests for joining us and you, the viewer, for tuning in. Now, if you missed any part of today's show, you can catch the Recablecast at 5 and 10 p.m. That's on Optimus Channel 67. If you don't have Optimus, you say, Darren, I've got Verizon Files. Well, that's good. You can catch us on 33. I don't have 67 to 33. Well, you can watch us anytime on the web at bronxnet.org. Also, a special shout out to those who are watching on the MNN channel, as MNN, of course, knows that we're broadcast simultaneously live on MNN, and my sister Ann and family watching. Good to say, hey, how you doing? We're out of show. That about wraps up for us here at Open. I'm Daren Jaime. Make sure you keep this channel and all of us here at BronxNet wide open. Take care.